Yes. It's Monday morning. It's early. It's Phoenix. I'm gonna eat my words today. I've been shit talking this Softail a whole bunch for good reason, because there was a lot of things I really didn't like about it. But we drastically changed a whole lot of stuff this weekend. It all went really, really smooth, except for the one thing that exploded in my face due to my own impatience. But look at this thing. It's a different bike. I still got some issues with it that I do not like about these bikes, but man, it is coming together. And I think really the main thing that really turned me off to it was the Lowrider. And when it comes down to it, it comes down to riding style, just the size of who you are and your ergonomical sitting stance. You know, for me, the Lowrider was miserable. The seat was cut really deep and it was really far back, and it was more like a traditional Softail, like Lowrider type motorcycle. It's not this type of motorcycle. It's not something to shred on how I personally ride a motorcycle. How I ride, I like to be up on the tank. I like to be up on the bars. I like to be in the attack position, like if you're riding moto. I also hated that gigantic gas tank on the Lowrider, the gigantic back fender. It just made the bike look gigantic, which really it's not a big bike, but it made it feel like I was riding a Cadillac. So we got rid of all the Lowrider stuff. We switched over the tank, the rear subframe, the rear fender. We swapped wheels with Homeboy too, because he had 13 spokes. Now the kid that we swapped with, Brandon, his dream bike was the pearl white Lowrider with the Lowrider rims and all that stuff. So I hated the Lowrider. He wanted the Lowrider. We did a nice trade back and forth. The gas tank on the Lowrider, the gauge mount thing had been cut off, so we're putting a different tank on it, getting it painted and fixing that thing. That's another long story down the road. But we traded seats, everything, because it all mocks up different. Everything's set up different. Now and I also had to change the rear sprocket and that stuff, because the sprocket that was on this thing was a piece of shit, and it was aluminum. Never put an aluminum sprocket on a Harley Davidson, especially a high torque one like this. It was just so beat, I couldn't get the bolts through it or out of it or none of that. So we put one of our sprockets on. I kept the same gearing because that was the only sprocket we had in stock. I'm actually getting used to the gearing and I kind of like it. You just got to rev the piss out of this motor a bit. So let's go over the things that I now like about this motorcycle. Seating position is 70% better. I'm up, I'm forward, I'm much better. My arms are really short though. For like being 6 foot, I got 4'5" arms. I have Speed Kings bars. I'm waiting on those. A higher bend, so I'm going to rotate them back and just bring them up and a little bit closer to myself. I need to sit like this due to a bunch of nerve damage and all that good stuff, you know, being a stunt rider. And have my bars back. So when I'm in a wheelie on this right now, since I'm still reaching a bit, when I'm in a wheelie, it's kind of pulling me out of the seat. I can't drop back into the seat like I need to, which I can wheelie this. It is it's overpowered and it's very violent, but I can do it. And I think I can get it dialed. My gold bike had a ton of power too, and I could kill it on that thing. So I come from that already. I think I can get this thing dialed. I've got to tune out the delay in the throttle. It definitely has a hard delay. I don't like that very much. We did put a Thunder Max on it. It runs a whole lot better. The rev limiter on this is still not very impressive, even with the Thunder Max. It's still kind of like a little bit better version of a fuel injected twin cam, which we're gonna work on that as well. What else do we do? Okay, so what I like, this thing, it's powerful. We rode up north, we went up to Wickenburg, and we carved a bunch of corners, and I can shred some corners on a Harley Davidson. Like, I can get my knee down, and I can do all that fancy sport bike stuff, because that's where I come from 20 years ago. This thing, though, is just another level. This is like it's like riding a super bike, like digging into a corner. I'm scuffing my pants, my jeans on corners on a Harley Davidson. I've never been able to get that hard into a turn before. This thing is amazing in a corner. With the skinnier back tire, getting that fat Lowrider tire off the back of it made a world of difference cornering. Like, you can cut and just dig into a corner. It is amazing. You just shift down, scrub speed, and then just coast into it and dig. It's beautiful. Riding, there's no wobble, there's no nothing. It's just true, it's fast, it's so smooth. I was doing 140 miles an hour passing a semi. And I had no idea I was doing 140 miles an hour. I was just sailing through the wind and it felt rock solid. I'm so used to, you know, sailing through the wind and then changing lanes and, you know, being scared shitless for a while. This thing is rock solid. Now, let's talk about some things I really don't like about this bike at all. For starters, this exhaust has got to go. I need an exhaust company to come through. I need something chrome. This is the worst fitting, worst sack of shit I've ever had on a motorcycle in my life. I think they just took twin cam pipes and wedged them onto M8s. It's bad. It's bad. I want it gone. I don't want to ride the bike with it on there. I think it's going to damage things. Both fork seals are blown. I need to replace those. And here is the major issue with this motorcycle. Pan down over here and look at all of the oil all over this thing. All over it, all the way back. Back brakes soaked everywhere.
Oh, that's hot.
You can do a 10-foot wheelie on this and it will dump a quart of oil out of the oil filter. It will dump so much oil when you come up to the stoplight, you're in a puddle of oil and you're rolling smoke everywhere. It is ridiculous. This is a 2018, so this has one of the first oil pump and cam chests in them, which were trash. They revised the oil pumps on these 4 times in like 3 years because they were garbage oil pumps. So I've got to change out the oil pump. I'm gonna run an S&S cam chest, most likely S&S. You guys can come through with a little hookup. That would be nice. You'll get some publicity out of this. And we're probably going to run a vented dipstick. I know Fueling makes them for the baggers. I'm hoping to God somebody makes one for this, or I'm gonna have to make one myself. These are shit motors. They make a ton of power, but don't let anybody tell you about how more reliable the M8 is, because this is a piece of shit motor. It's a well-powered motor, and it's got a whole lot of potential to make a bunch of power, but this is the cheapest shitbox Harley has ever made. That is for sure. And we'll also get with Mark, and we'll have a nice video coming of all of the problems with the M8 and what to look for and what you need to fix if you're going to talk about building any power in these. You can't just throw a cam in this, because you can throw a cam in it and make 120 horsepower, but that 120 horsepower is going to last you 120 miles, and shit's going to start blowing apart inside this thing. All that aside, I mean, I think that's it, dude. We got a lot coming. We've done a lot to the bike. We did our top mount. I just machined down and made some really small levers because I like really tiny levers, and I'm going to powder coat them. I love the clutch on this. I'm not even going to put an aftermarket clutch in it. The clutch feels so good stock. I'm not touching it at all. I'm going to run one of our lay down plates. I got real close to scraping this, and I'm pretty sure I could scrape it if I could get rid of the oil problem. I can't really wheelie it because it's soaking the back brakes in oil right now. I'm going to get rid of these, probably do some flush mounts on the back, or just a little light tab on the back like we normally do, which is probably what I will do. And I want to build a scrape plate back here. I want to have something that I can dig back to and scrape. And then bars and clean it. I need a chrome pipe. This thing's going gloss black and chrome. Jade Affiliate Wheel Company just stepped in yesterday. They came by for a meeting. They're making me custom wheels for this bike. Probably gonna run them all chrome, maybe a little gold, little chrome. It's gonna be super fly. So stay posted. Get on them notifications, get on that subscription, like and subscribe. I got a whole lot of kids to feed out here, man. So you know, help us make it. Kruesi Originals, KruesiOriginals.com. Kruesi Originals on Instagram, Kruesi Originals on your mom.